Come on, bitch, let's go. Come on, get ready, bitches. You haven't seen nothing yet. Come on. Valentino, Versace, Lamborghini, Bugatti. I got money to burn. I'm single and I'm naughty. Come on. Tiffany's, Cartier, Gucci, Armani. Come on. Break out your black card, boys. It's time to party.
Hi, you guys. Well, you know, what can I tell you? Epstein has been on my mind. You guys know that I did a little kind of, a few different segments over the last 2 weeks on things that kind of tied into Epstein. And so I don't know, the other day it was really weird because I was, getting back into Epstein again because of the last, 2 shows that I did. And I kind of had little elements of it that got me going. And it occurred to me that I was going to look up what's going on with it lately. And all of a sudden I see an interview with Maria Farmer on CNN, and she's describing, I didn't hear all of it, just a few minutes of it, but she's describing the night that she goes to Epstein's offices the first time she's interviewing for her job, which I had never heard this story before. And she says,
the government has not held any of the people I reported accountable. And so basically the night before I went in, before I began working for Epstein, he called me at very late in the evening and asked me to come up to the Helmsley Palace offices. And I didn't even have money for a subway token. It's kind of embarrassing. So I had to go running up there. And so I told Epstein, I'll be up there. It'll probably take me until 9. He's like, okay. So I get there and I'm waiting. It's dark. There's no light on in the offices. And I thought that was really weird. So I'm seated against the wall in the main part of the offices and just waiting for Epstein. And he says, I'll be out in a minute, and he's got the door closed. And then a few minutes later, this man walks in a business suit, kind of tall, imposing. And I immediately was like, that's Donald Trump. What's he doing here? I'm supposed to be working for Epstein and interviewing with him. Why is Donald Trump here? And he walked up about, a few feet from me and just stood over me in a very imposing way and looked at me like he was in on some secret or something. It was really weird, smirking, kind of. And I felt threatened, so I made an ugly face. And when I made that ugly face, Epstein walked out from the offices on this side. Trump's standing here, I'm here. And he walks out of his office and he goes, oh, no. He was laughing at me. And he goes, she's not here for you. Follow me, right? And he escorts him in to this other room. And I always wondered, who was she in there? Was someone in there, right? And I have no way of knowing, nothing. But I felt very intimidated because I had on running shorts and I was vulnerable, sweaty, just a nobody in an office with these 2 men. It felt very predatory and uncomfortable. I have to say that when I made that ugly face, he backed off. It wasn't like he was aggressive after that, but he made a really vulgar comment following. And I don't know if it was like locker room talk in the 90s, the way men were, but he made a joke to Epstein, oh, I thought she was 16. And I thought that was so strange because at the time my sister she was 15 actually. And I didn't think it was funny, even though it was just a little bit inappropriate, but I thought, I don't know what it was. But anyway, and then they entered that room.
While I'm listening to this CNN interview, I swear to the Lord Jesus, okay, I get a text message out of the blue from Cassandra, who I haven't talked to in I don't know, a few months maybe. We stay in touch, but hey, that kind of thing. And she's like, listen, you're not going to believe this. And I'm going to let her take it away because she's on with me right now.
Yes, it's so weird. And I'm so glad I came to you because, I don't really have a lot of context for this kind of stuff. And you've done a lot of research on it. And I reached out to you because I have a recording that is Enty lawyer interviewing Maria Farmer on June 7th, 2023. And I have the unedited version because he had me edit it for him. And I was there live on the Zoom call when the interview happened. And I didn't really understand why he had me edit a part out of it. But after doing some research, I figured it out. And I kind of wanted to like unpack that with you. And also just unpack like, how does he have access to victims like this? And also this woman is really problematic. And what's going on here?
Well, it's okay. So this, you guys, is like an onion. You're going to just keep peeling and peeling in a way. This show it blew my mind while I was doing this show today. You know, I spent like 8 hours on this show. So here's the thing, right? Cassandra reaches out. She's like, I have this recording. I'm like, that is really bizarre because of the timing of it and what I was doing when she reached out. It was like a really strange coincidence. And so I was like, okay. And I was like, is it okay for us to, you know, use this interview? Cassandra's like, yes, because I edited it. I have it. He gave it to me. I've aired it. He's aired it. All this. So I'm like, cool, good enough for me. And yay, let's bring it into the Patreon because I know a lot more actually about Epstein than I think Enty did, you know, John did essentially when he was doing this show. So I was like, I can bring this to the next level, this interview.
Yeah.
So, but when we're talking, Cassandra's like, well, I have a version of the show, which is the edited version that I did for Enty. And she goes, but he had me take out a bunch of things. And I'm like what? And she was like, well, go ahead, Cassandra. What did he have you edit out?
He had me edit out a part of Maria Farmer's story about Lady Victoria Hervey.
And I was like, but why? Why would he care to cut out Lady Victoria Hervey? Because, I mean, you know who she is, right? She's this woman who has been going out publicly for years, standing up for Prince Andrew. I've covered her on the show before, you know, saying that the picture that Virginia Giuffre presented as evidence that she was with Prince Andrew was photoshopped and all this stuff. And she built a whole case around it. She went to the house where the photo was taken and to show that it couldn't possibly be done in the way that they did it. Like the photo's fake, and that, you know, Prince Andrew never hooked up with Virginia Giuffre when she was an underage girl. Anyway, this is the same Lady Victoria. And so I'm like, that's so weird to me. Like, what does he care what Maria Farmer, who's a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, says about her? And then Cassandra.
I think I have some answers. Yeah. So we all know Enty runs Crazy Days and Nights, and it's a gossip blog, and he's been propping up Lady Victoria regularly over the years as this like glamorous, connected, in the know person. And I think that's one part of it. He wants to avoid negative coverage, even allegedly saying that the people that listen to his podcast, they would be upset if they heard that. That was one of the excuses he told me. And I'll just say allegedly because he loves to sue me, that he suggested to me that basically she's given him money over the years, a lot of money, and he doesn't want to piss her off, which is wild.
That's shocking.
And I don't believe that necessarily because of who he is and just the way that he lies. And I think it's more of like probably a narrative thing. Like it just wouldn't fit his specific narrative. And it's sad that he uses Maria's like early whistleblower reputation for credibility and traffic, right?
Yeah. And what was so bizarre. Okay. So you guys, as I'm putting this information that Maria Farmer shares, which is going to blow your mind, like this is next level, especially with the supplementary information I give you alongside what she says. What I'm thinking the whole time is Enty is listening to this woman as a victim she's pouring her soul out to Enty. She's a fan of Enty's, believe it or not. Maria Farmer, Epstein victim, fan of Enty's. And you can tell she really admires his knowledge base, and she has given him a load of credibility. In fact, it reminded me so much of me when I used to collaborate with Enty. I gave him so much credibility, like this Anon guy. I don't know why. Like he was my shrink or something. And she's doing almost the same thing. And I'm getting so upset because I'm thinking to myself the whole time, he's like so pro-woman, so pro-victim. But then what he did to you know what I'm saying? Like you're sitting there as his side girlfriend, not knowing it. You know, he's got a wife, he's cheating, he's lying to both of you. And it turns out he does a horribly, not physically, but emotionally abusive thing to you and has all these weird, fetishes.
Epstein characteristics.
Yes.
I
didn't
so
want to
bizarre.
say it, but you said it. And it
And
was
the delusion of the fact that like he was literally on his family vacation that's why I was doing all the research for the episode. And that's why I was the one editing it and putting it out and publishing it for him, because he was on vacation. I didn't realize that at the time. Like I figured that out later,
So he's like literally using his mistress, who he doesn't know she's his mistress, the irony of this, right? To research and edit a show about an Epstein victim. Okay, like, what?
Yeah.
And you know what it had to me? Koberger vibes. Like, seriously, you know how Koberger was like, I'm going to become a professor in criminality, and he studied like how a crime scene is put together, or did like a thesis on it in school. And then he ends up using the knowledge he gets from the school to like, do the Idaho murders. Like it had the same energy as that. Like, why is this man pretending to be a pro-woman advocate?
It's really disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. And it's so obvious too when you listen to it, because on the one hand, he's curating this like hero narrative for Lady Victoria over the years, and then he's cutting out what she says about her. And on the other hand, he's monetizing survivor trauma with Maria's story. I mean, and so many other survivors he's done this with, right?
I'm going to say this. To be fair, I really listened to the show like up front so I could have a real clear of what her take was before I worked on the show, and edited him out. No, I didn't edit him out, but almost out. But it was like, what I sensed was a few things that irritated me. Number one, it irritated me that Enty pretended to know what he was talking about in a few instances on the show. And I'm so versed on this topic that I could tell he had mixed up people's names and he didn't know exactly who or what he was talking about. He was trying to wing it, and he was like leading her so she would like fill in the blank. But he made a few mistakes and I caught it. I'm validating as I'm listening, and I'm like, that he got that name wrong, get that off. Like it was inauthentic, because the whole time she's thinking he's like an expert the way he's talking to her. And it's like a con almost. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like he's pretending that he's super into this topic and knows everything about it. And he's the genius behind it to help her through this show. And I can tell he's like looking at a paper that he doesn't totally understand what he's reading from. And he's just trying to make her feel like seen, but it's all nonsense.
It was all my notes. It's all my notes. And I actually sent you the shared Google Drive that I had, which is all of the notes I did, because he didn't do the research. And the Epstein map that he has, by the way, that's my friend Danny, Gossip Gal. She made that, and that it was years ago, and he reached out and said, hey, can I use this? And she said, of course. Like, she was flattered. And then once everything came out about him, she started helping to expose him. So, but he still uses that Epstein map like as the background on his Facebook page, which is wild.
That's
it's
so
just a huge
crazy
pattern of like stealing women's work.
It would be like saying to somebody the whole time, like you read their book and you're a big fan and you lead them through the interview in that way, but you've never read the book. You're off like 6 bullets and you're making mistakes, but you're like, yeah, oh yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, that's that. Yeah. Like it's just a lie. And you don't actually care about this writer at all. Like
no,
your interview.
And hearing it this, long after everything has ended in court with him, and just hearing his voice like that, it was like, it was shocking, you know? I was like, oh, that's so disturbing and gross. And he sounds like a dirty old man. And how did I not hear that before?
It's crazy. And I told you, and the Patreons know that have been in for a while during the Enty scandal, that I poured my guts out about my own trauma to him, oddly similar to Maria, right? Farmer and you.
Right. Many
like,
women.
And many women. And like here, it's like telling a predator in a sense, because for you, he was. This was like an allegorical novel, the full circle. So, all right. Well, that was really helpful information. Let me ask you a question. Did he tell you any of the origin story with Maria Farmer and him? Like, how did she end up on his show? That must have been a pretty big get, because Maria Farmer, who just appeared, like I said, on CNN telling this story. Now, let me tell you just my take. I know that one of the things we talked about sort of offline was that Maria doesn't seem very supportive to victims. She like has two groups of victims where she kind of, one group she's like, these people deserve to feel bad for, and this group you shouldn't feel bad for, kind of thing. And I know that was like upsetting a little bit to you, which was an interesting take. And I'm bringing this up because I'm curious to see how the Patreons feel after they get into it. But I did want to give you my take, Cassandra, since we talked about it before I start the interview and with my narrative. I want you to know that I get two things from her as to why she's not supportive to some of the victims. Number one is that she feels that some of the victims were actually adults and recruiters. And so although they've been paid out and they were involved as Jane Does in the going up against Ghislaine Maxwell in the trial that she ended up going to jail on, she felt like those people were recruiters for Epstein and knew exactly what was going on. And it was transactional for them. And then they decided, like hustlers, to monetize off it. And some of those people got more money than the real victims that were underage that came out of Florida that didn't recruit. And she was like, how is that possible? That's number one. Number two, I think she also felt that way about some of the victims because she believes that some of the people involved in this are implicated with like the government, not so much on the victim side, but on his employee side. Because she really believes that Epstein, through Les Wexner, is involved with the Jewish mafia and or the CIA. And it sounds completely bonkers to say that at this point, but as we get into the show and I start to tell you the origin story about some of the people and names and what she witnessed, it's going to make more sense.
The thing is, she's an imperfect victim, right? I mean, but she is still a victim and she was the first whistleblower. And there's a lot of reasons people will come up with, like trauma, her frustration, everything. But she has said some really heinous things. So people should just know that going in. If you're going to research Maria Farmer, she says things like, you know, if you were over the age of 18, you're not a victim. Like sex workers that change their mind in the middle of it aren't victims. She says like, you know, some heinous stuff about Me Too. And I think it hurts the survivor community overall. You're going to play some clips, I'm sure, of things she said that are really just upsetting to anybody who's ever been a victim, you know? Well,
it's definitely a very strong viewpoint. But to be fair, she says that she was reached out to, if you believe her, by Patricia Arquette, and that Patricia Arquette asked her to not tag the Me Too movement and Virginia too, to tell Virginia Giuffre, who she spoke with, I guess, a little bit here and there, to not tag the Me Too movement to do with Epstein because they didn't want to include them in the Me Too movement. And that then alienated her and Virginia. And that's why they kind of turned on the Me Too movement.
At one point, a listener reached out to me and they said, the Maria Farmer episode is one that caught my eye. There's a woman I've been following on here who tells a completely different version of Maria's story. Her name is Lady Victoria Hervey, and she is not a fan of Maria's. And according to her, Maria is lying. She's British, and apparently she dated Prince Andrew at one point. She hasn't posted about it in a few weeks, but her version of things is definitely interesting.
And it's funny because this is obviously like an older thing that was sent to Cassandra back from 2023, right? So, you know, what transpires after, of course, is Lady Victoria becomes like the ultimate champion against the victims and says like they're all lying and these were all actually, she ends up agreeing with Maria in some respects by saying, listen, Virginia Giuffre, although Maria loves Virginia and she says she was a real victim, she really stands for Virginia. But she says, you know, Maria and Lady Hervey have one thing in common, which is they say, well, all these women that were adults knew what they were doing. And there's, you know, they allowed themselves to be exploited. And so tough tooties, now you're regretting it. But like, there's a lot of women that do it and they don't regret it. And that's it, you know, and you got your purse and be on your way, you know, or whatever. So it's kind of wild, right? That lady, it's like weird to me because Lady Hervey and Maria Farmer, who they hate each other, have like a similar viewpoint about some of the victims, which is really wild.
It's like internalized misogyny.
You know, it's never clean cut.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. You know, this is actually like
she really is an imperfect victim, but I mean, I do believe her. Like, I know that she filed a complaint in 1996, you know, with the FBI. That we know that that's true. And she has named Epstein. She's named Trump. Like in that recording, she talks about, there's a lot of names. She says Alan Dershowitz.
She has an unredacted version of the Black Book that the FBI left at her house.
Right.
Her personal experiences that you guys are going to hear about, which are like her experiences, so no one can touch those. Those are hers to tell, right, and view. You're going to hear how she hung out in Epstein's house that was previously owned by the Iranian Embassy. I'm going to tell you all the details about that. You're going to hear about how she felt kidnapped by Epstein and Ghislaine in Ohio for a summer, in the same way that some of the victims described being isolated and taken away to Epstein Island.
Yes, and it's Les Wexner's house, and she even claims that she was held there by gunpoint, and there was like vicious dogs that would attack her if she tried to leave the property, and Ghislaine Maxwell like tracked her every move.
And you're going to hear about that. You're going to hear her take on some of the victims and employees that were around during that time that she had personal interactions with, and her takes on them, who they are, what they did for Epstein, if they're good people or not. And that was really interesting, those types of things. And there were clues and things that she said that I don't think she realized, which I picked up on, and I will expand on those with facts for you guys to consider. At the end, what's crazy is I kind of think I know who, if Epstein died for someone, he died, you know, who the person is. So I'll share that with you. Cassandra, thank you so much for this gift, this amazing gift of this very unheard interview of Maria Farmer from 2023 that was before she'd been media trained and done a million things and there was no agenda and she was just telling her story. And I think that's what a rare thing we got our hands on. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, because I feel like you're transmuting all this negative energy into something like that we can actually listen to. And honestly, I appreciate the way that you approach these stories because you handle them with respect and humanity, which is the opposite of how Enty handles it, like gossip fodder. And you're giving survivors a sense of dignity, you know?
Well, thank you so much. I do try to say all sides, right, as best I can. And that means the victims too, because as you can see, these victims are battling it out.
Yeah.
But really quick before you go, and then I'll transition into the show. Did he end up suing you, or did that get settled, or what happened?
Yeah, when we went to court and I ultimately won, and yes. he never ended up suing me so for defamation. And I don't know, I'm still waiting for the FBI to show up any day now. My goal was accomplished because I just wanted other girls to be able to look up his name and see who he was and know, and not, just to have a choice, just at least have an option to know the truth.
Yeah. That he's not tricking anybody anymore. And he isn't, because everybody knows. And some people still choose to put up his blinds and cover his blinds. I don't really, unless it's, really something spectacular, because I don't believe his blinds. He's just getting them, like we know, from just public record. So I might as well just, Google it, really. Get on ChatGPT and check it out,
And if you guys want to find all of my work, including all of the Drenched in Drama, the Enty receipts, or nostalgia, movie watch-alongs, all kinds of stuff, you can go to Cassandra Explains It All. That's where everything lives. And then if you're just looking for the Enty stuff, I would just go to Drenched in Drama.
All right, you guys. Well, let's get into this amazing tea you're about to hear from Maria Farmer.
Come on, bitch, let's go.
All right, you guys. So now we're going to get into the Maria Farmer interview. I've edited Enty way down in it for obvious reasons. This is a two-part show because of the length of this interview with Maria Farmer. I just want you to know that I will be talking in between with commentary, because as she's talking, I validated things she was saying so that I could know they were accurate and what they meant to me, because some of them were astonishing and very difficult to know in the average search out there for Epstein. It was just really shocking to me, some things. So I'm going to call those out to you as we hit them in the show. So buckle up, because this is going to blow your mind.
I'm going to let you know, I've only had one other job in my life other than working for Epstein. And it was working at a law firm, LaBeouf Green, Libby McRae, the year between graduate school and undergrad, right? And it was just like a starvation job. I was so bad at everything. I just don't have any skills at LaBeouf. We were friends with Donald Green, family friends. So that's why he gave me the job. And I ended up reading all of Trump's divorce. That's what I did. Because I didn't know them yet, but I ended up reading Ivana's divorce, because she hired that firm to represent her in the divorce. And it was just boxes full that I read. That's how bad I was at the job. So my point is, I didn't have any skills to be a secretary. And Epstein, it became apparent very quickly that he was going to just steal art.
Okay, so let me interject here. Maria Farmer is under... For the full scoop, join the Dishing Drama Dana Patreon. The link is in this audio description. It's only $6 a month, and you'll get the best information and tea about the things you care about, and even the things you don't know you care about. What are you waiting for?